3, 2, live.
You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Hey, welcome to the remote show with Michael Maturo.
You must be calling as you've heard about our new web app launch. We're pretty excited about it too. Leave us your name, number, and the best time to call, and we'll follow up and answer any inquiries you may have. Have a great day.
A new intro.
Man, that's like techno music, David. That's awesome. I was like jamming out, man.
And more my vibe.
Yeah, more your vibe.
Yeah, so more your vibe. Yeah, well, we do our best. We do our best.
Yeah, doing quite
we
good.
We can only do what a large Chinese corporation allows us to do. So let's put it that way.
There you go. I love it.
Get past the censors, yeah.
We made the censors. That's
well,
awesome.
Good to see you, gentlemen.
Good to see you, my friend.
Congratulations. Show number 92, I heard.
90. This is our 92nd show. Yeah. On podcasting, it's probably somewhere in the 70s because not every show can be a podcast. We found out because the artists that are like, we had one yesterday, it's visually striking. But when I won't go back and I listen to it, and I'm like, it can't really be a podcast because it's like, that's beautiful. Look at the colors. Look how that pops about. People will be like, what the hell? And it's like, so probably 70. I think we have about 80 podcasts and 92 YouTubes. So our 100th show is coming up. So we're going to, I think, do something special as we talked about earlier. I think David's going to lay naked on a bear rug in front of a fireplace with his new glasses. And we're very excited. We figure everybody at AARP, snap that calendar right up.
Yeah, I literally paid $2 at Lidl today for my reading glasses.
Well, this is the style.
Last of the big spenders, mate. I tell you. And,
I see that.
Yeah, and it's good to have a show which reflects show numbers, Stephen, which reflects your age, really. To be honest.
There you go. Well, and when we get to the show 1,000,006, it'll finally get to my age. So we're getting there. Getting close.
No,
so.
Well, good. So big reminder is that we have Brittany next week, Brittany Hodak on creating superfans.
Yep.
Which I'll make sure you get a digital copy of the book. But this is it. She's coming tomorrow. She's coming next Friday, the 27th, and she'll be on the show to talk about remote work, creating culture, and creating superfans among your colleagues and your customers.
And David, when he's saying super fans, once again, that's not the big fan that cools you down. That's not one of those. It's super fans.
Yeah.
Like T-Mobile, like we spoke about last week.
Well, you brought up T-Mobile, and you heard what happened with T-Mobile.
Yeah, they got a data breach again. That's like an every year thing with them.
That's kind of a regular occurrence.
Yeah, with T-Mobile now, it's just sort of like, every year you're going to see a data breach, and a year from now, I'm going to get a postcard that says from some law firm, you're going to get $3 back. And then I'll get a check for $3, and there you go.
Yeah, it's almost worth cashing the check on the virtual.
Listen, I'm a Jew. I will cash it for 40 cents.
Absolutely.
Let's not get carried away. So I'll cash it for whatever it takes.
That's right.
Yeah, it's no longer possible here to cash checks on the internet. It costs you like $20 to cash any check, regardless. So my kids used to get birthday checks from their aunties and uncles, and grandparents, but it just costs so much. They go into the bank with that. They said, "What's that?" It's a check. Oh, well, what's that then? Oh, okay, right. So we're all digital.
So So I mean, is that? Yeah. And the thing is that in the future, or are we going backward and losing access to our paper quality goods?
Wow, I mean, if you had shares in a large forest in Scandinavia, you'd be out there every day lighting a candle for people to write checks, but
you use that forest for carbon credits, and then you would get money back for the government. And you trade the credits. It'd be awesome.
Wow,
you could create a whole scheme.
There you go.
Yeah, like we did in Bolivia. So that's what we did with them. Yeah.
Wow.
Or maybe I can get some carbon credits for my Nigerian bank account, which seems to have gone south. But that's
I mean that. We'll talk about the Nigerian New York bank account later, but I feel bad that that happened to you. So.
Yeah.
Well, today.
Oh no! Today is the remote show. And
Today we're talking the remote show. Yeah.
Which we're all remote, so we're 50% of the battle.
Very much doing it. Very much
There
doing
you
it.
go.
And we've so a quick recap wanted to do over what we've covered so far is that we've covered a lot of ground in terms of the do's and don'ts of remote work. We've covered even what the remote work is, comparing it from big companies and startups, and helping people get a sense as to is it even right for them. But what I wanted to talk about today and get your guys' input on too is, how do people even get remote jobs? How should they try to get these jobs? How should they work to get these jobs? What are the techniques to do it? And I sent you a poll from LinkedIn talking about how they landed their last or current role. And you can see that only 25% of the 673 votes were from submitting a resume directly. And you've got 36% by referrals and 34% by recruiters, and only 4% by a community that they're in.
Right.
So I think that's a really important graphic to talk about and to think about on this show.
Cool. Well, we like graphics because, we're aiming for numbers.
But Michael, what's so important about it then?
Referrals. Well, the emphasis is on referrals and recruiters. So many people, I think a lot of people rely on blasting your resume out to a million sources and crossing fingers and hoping for the best. But one, it doesn't really work. And two, there are better ways to do it. And part of what I'm gearing up to cover in the course, and part of what we'll cover on this show, is recruiters and referrals are really the way to get in. But you have to then do some extra work to, one, meet recruiters, and two, get referrals by people who are either at the company or friends of friends, people who know other people at the company, those second and third degree connections on LinkedIn or other networks. But LinkedIn is really the place to be for the remote workspace in tech.
It's amazing that LinkedIn has made itself like everybody's like, no one uses Monster anymore, or Indeed, or right? Everyone goes to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they've made themselves invaluable.
Is that the case? I mean, it's a very sweeping
I think
statement.
So.
Sweeping stuff. Or are you talking just in the US? Are you talking globally? I mean,
anytime I talk to somebody about anything, they're always like, go to LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn. It's like, go to Google. You don't hear people go to Yahoo anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like, go to Google, go to LinkedIn. So I think, they've made a footprint.
Well, let's look at how prevalent LinkedIn is around the world, because I know for a fact that the tech industry is dominated by LinkedIn. And actually it says that LinkedIn has 875 million people across 58 million companies.
Oh, wow. Sounds like
they're about to lose, but they're losing 12,000 Google employees this week, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, those sort of figures, Michael, reminded me of your audience figures. So
that's right.
That LinkedIn are catching up, mate.
That's right. We've got to do it. And LinkedIn, talking about LinkedIn, is going to help that, because LinkedIn is really the way to do it. So if you use Monster or Indeed or any of those other sites, of course you're going to see the listings. But when you do the research on who is at the company and what they care about, you'll really want to go to LinkedIn, because people are posting on there. There's news about the company. And then you see, of course, all of the people who you may be connected to in some way or another, 2 or 3 degrees, to people at the company that you want to work at. So,
but
yeah, go ahead.
No. What's interesting is that back in the day, nobody cared. You know what I mean? It's like we've become the society of tree huggers. It's like, if their CEO's value or their COO or the value doesn't meet with my value, I can't. Put your big boy pants on, shut up and go get the job. I mean, like, not everybody's value. There's a big article in the Financial Times today about Davos and about, climate and ESG, which is all BS, in my opinion. It's like they all say it, they make all the shareholders feel better. They make all their employees feel better. But really, and we had this dialogue the other day with somebody, if you're going to chase EBITDA, then chase it. Mm-hmm. Like, go ahead. It's okay to chase EBITDA. It's okay to say that, listen, I don't really care. I'm going to be dead in 100 years.
But that's a value.
Yeah, but it isn't, because you can say it, but like these B corporations and the ESGs and all, they don't really do it. That's part of the problem. Even the SEC has said that, and a lot of the filings are like, this is bull. So, like, let's stop with the reach around hand jobs.
There's a
and
lot of
let's just do the job.
There's
So
a lot of illusions, but you still have to find meshing with the vision and the mission of the organization that you want to work with. If you have that luxury, if you have the luxury to choose where you want to work,
right. But most people don't, though.
some people do
Apparently,
not.
they do because nobody wants to work anymore.
Well,
But I mean, most people don't, though, right? Most people have to go to work.
what I find on LinkedIn is that it's that for some reason or another, when I worked for a recruitment company and they found it difficult in the beginning. It was very costly against the monsters and everything else. But obviously the sort of decking that they have has enabled everybody to the prices to come down a little bit, I think. But nobody seems to be sort of actively pushing their company profiles. I was quite shocked as to how poor some of them are. Oh, look at the website; it's all on there. So yeah, you say go to LinkedIn, you should get a better idea of the company. Well, you might just well go to the website. So what does LinkedIn offer me?
Right.
Yeah, they don't have a recruiter's name when you apply for a job. There's nobody you can, easy apply is literally easy apply. You don't meet anybody. You don't speak to anybody. You don't know who to contact to make sure whether or not your application form has been put in. Yeah, it's
well, you get the so if people are participating on LinkedIn, which many people in tech are, I'd say probably a majority of tech people are participating in some way on LinkedIn, whether it's on discussion groups or posting something themselves or just liking what their company posts to reinforce what the company is sharing. That level of participation, when you participate, you're seeing who else is out there. You're seeing other voices, and you get to either connect with people in the groups or even directly. There are very easy ways to find the work email address of people that, let's say there's a job that you really care about, you really want to get, you're going to go the extra mile for it. You'll reach out to someone that you're somewhat connected to and reach out to them and tell them about yourself and about how you link up and relate to the job that's on offer.
But see, that's a real old school way of doing it, right? Because that's what you used to do back in the day. You would find someone and you'd give them your CV and you would do it. So to that, I give LinkedIn a lot of credit where you can research somebody and say, oh, so-and-so, I know so-and-so through this, because even sometimes they'll say, you can do. So I give LinkedIn credit for that. It helps you broaden your community. And then hopefully someone can recommend you for a gig or something, right? Because, I know so-and-so through whoever. So that's kind of a cool thing. But overall, it's just sort of, it's interesting how it's become like the go-to thing over the last 10 years, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's something interesting. Interesting, gentlemen. Do you both have large networks on LinkedIn?
I have a large network in general,
Yeah.
Yes.
But so the next question is, how many referrals do you have? You can count them probably on. Well, how many you can ask for referrals on LinkedIn?
You mean people that write comments about how wonderful I am?
Right.
Well, when I released
that once every couple of years.
Yeah, when I released their families.
You can count them on one hand or two hands. That's what I'm saying. It's
5.
I use LinkedIn, I should think, on a daily basis, so I'm not a fan.
Right.
But I think they're slightly pretentious in the way that they think, if you're on this platform, you can find a job.
Right.
Now you can,
Well,
I'd have to disagree with you on that one, Michael.
No, it's no guarantee that if you're on LinkedIn, you're going to get a job. That's definitely not what I'm saying, and that's not the case. But it does help because it gives you more information about your target job, about the target company, and it gives you an understanding of what they're saying and what they care about. And you're there to solve the pain as an employee, you're there to solve the pain and drive forward the mission of whatever company you're going for. So when you get more information like that, not only about the company, but about who works there, that to me is a big help in the research, which you have to do if you really want to get a job today. You need to go, I think you need to go the extra mile and do that kind of research, in addition to understanding the target industry that you're looking to get into, understanding the landscape. And maybe it is an old school way using a digital platform, but I believe in it. And that's how I generally work. I mean, all of my jobs have come through people that either people that I've worked with or I've gotten information about through LinkedIn or through digital means like their website. And that's all helped the interview process. And that helps just communicating with people who might have a job for you in the future, which LinkedIn does very well. There are people putting out there that they need a job. There's that little open to work sign, and people putting posts to help each other out and find proper placement if you're on there and active.
Right. I think it's a great tool because it also opens up people for gigs that, like, especially remote work. Yeah. Whether it's a company in India or China or America or South America hiring them, you're sitting in nowhere, Idaho. And you can apply for that and get it. And you can't do that any other way, type of thing, right? Whether you use Monster or use LinkedIn is not material, but because of the internet, you can do that. The other thing when you talk about research, a lot of people, and to me this is ridiculous, is they look at people's Facebook and their Instagram and all this other stuff. Yeah. So that's another thing we should probably have a dialogue, maybe not today, but you have to be really careful. Now, when you're like David and I, and you just don't give an F anymore because we're just two old farts, we don't give a shit what we post. And if anybody's offended, we don't really care. But if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 20s, that's a different thing.
It remains digital concrete, Stephen. That's what you're trying to say.
That's fine. That's why I purposely post offensive things. So a million years from now, when they look back, they're going to go, that guy, balls. And that's important. Like Frank Sinatra's song, My Way.
Right.
That's, I'm going out my way. Like, I'm not here to appease anybody. I don't care.
It's one of the most popular songs played at funerals, Stephen. So there you go.
There you go. But that's my point, though. It's like you have to be cognizant of it. There's certain things that, like, we post, and there's certain things that someone will send, like, yeah, we really can't post that. Like, we can filter ourselves. But it's just, if you're 20 years old or you're 30 years old or you're 40, and you got to be really careful about what you post, because employers, I should say, and employees look at that. They look at both sides.
You have to, because customers are going to look for it too.
Right.
You end up working for a company and you're gonna make a deal with somebody. You're gonna look them up online. Right. You're gonna see what's out there about them. Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's so easy to do it, and that's part of why it's not that maybe the information wouldn't be out there before, but it would be much harder to get. You'd have to talk to people who know that person. Right. Do references.
You'd have to break into their house and look at their photograph collection.
Well, we still do that, David. That's how we hire our employees. After we say we're going to hire you, we send the boys to the house. Gio and Rocco go through everything, and then we determine if
because there are just so many people who have lost the opportunity to work because of something they've done and posted it on Facebook, or Instagram or wherever. Right. And so, okay, so that's what you do in your spare time. Well, that may not just fit exactly in what we want to do as a company, and so
no, you have to.
That's a whole other show, I'm sure.
That's a good. I mean, that's like online reputation management, which matters. Right. That could be a different show. Yeah, that could be another show.
Yeah.
But that's like Two Old Farts got kicked off of LinkedIn. So.
Oh, right. That's right. You got kicked off.
We got the Two Old Farts itself, not us, but our Two Old Farts.
Yeah. They didn't like that
corporate profile. They didn't like buttocks or whatever it was.
Like buttocks. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Meanwhile, people say "F you" all the time on it, but buttocks was a bad word apparently. So
too much nudity, it would appear, Stephen. That's what it was.
Right.
Listen. I try to keep my clothes on, David, but when you're this good looking, you got to let the people see it. Yeah. So
if you've got it, flaunt it.
That's what I always say. It sounds like we're going to do a song from the producers in a moment. Anyway, if you got it flaunted, now I'm going to start singing. Anyway, but so if somebody wants a remote job, then, and they're going to use like what you just showed us on LinkedIn. So in your opinion, better than to go chase somebody, go find a recruiter? How best then to get this remote job based on like the research you're seeing on LinkedIn? And I mean, granted, they take your course or they listen to the show, whatever it might be. But how best for them then to go, I want to go work at not Google right now because they're laying off 12,000 people, but let's just say Yahoo because they're not laying off anybody because they only have 4 people, and you want to work at Yahoo. How best then to get into Yahoo then, or whatever company you want to get into, to start doing remote work?
I mean, they're the 3 main steps, I would say. The first is really having a clear understanding as to why you want the position that they've offered. So knowing that I definitely want to be in sales, and this is why I'm good at so-and-so, I'm good at communicating with people, and I feel like solving pain points. Or if you want it to be in marketing, you got to be very clear about why you want the position. So that's the first step, is just being very clear about what your goal is, where you want to go, and why you want to do it. And then the second is understanding the company itself. So this is why doing research, not just about the position and what it takes, but about the company itself and the people in it. And LinkedIn is a part of that. So is the website. So is their social media posts. Right. But understanding the company so that when you do, in the third step, when you do try to communicate with somebody either at the company or who's a recruiter, who maybe have posted the job, or someone who's connected to the company itself, even if it's a manual reach out to someone that you don't happen to know, don't have a connection to, but at least you have some context for why you care about the company and why you care about that mission and that job. Right. Because you have to position yourself, and that positioning is a really important part of it.
So would you say that LinkedIn then is the best, if I want to be a remote worker for whatever the position is LinkedIn the best platform then for me to find it? Or how would you go about looking?
For tech jobs, LinkedIn is definitely the best place to be. And if you look at, and it's also for people outside of the US, I'm seeing this statistic that LinkedIn users, there are 194 million Americans on LinkedIn, but 78% of all LinkedIn users are actually outside the US.
Yeah,
wow. It's really popular outside the United States.
It has in Holland a huge coverage. But I've got a tip for anybody looking for a job on LinkedIn. You just have to put into the search bar at the top, recruiter, and then pick the region you're interested in, and just send an invite to all recruiters, because they love to expand their network, and it enables you to click with them and helps them to find you a lot quicker.
That's a good point, David. Yeah, just actually using that connect button is a really valuable way to signal that you're interested, that you care. That
don't send them messages. It'll cost you a fortune if you use up all your credits.
Right.
But just Google, just put recruiter in and pick the area you're interested in, all the companies that you're interested in, and the recruiters will pop up, because their job is to be available to everybody. And as soon as you say, will you link with me? And the fun thing about the recruiters is it works the other way around, because if the recruiter has lots of connections in company A, B, and C, and you want to work for company A, B, and C, then being linked to the recruiter will give you seconds and thirds on LinkedIn, which you could then contact directly and try and link with them, the HR people directly, which cuts out the recruiter. Oh, happy day.
I mean, hiring, if you can find a way, when you find a way into the actual hiring managers, and again, that's another old school way to do it, is directly connect to the company. And you can do that in creative ways. It doesn't just have to be an email. Recording a video, a short video is getting increasingly popular, is having a way just to actually voice your interest instead of just writing it. So there are other ways to do it.
But there's companies now that actually do that. A friend of mine was telling me that his interview process, after they said, we want to talk to you, was he had to answer questions on an interview, but video. He had, like they said, the computer would say, tell us whatever, and then he would answer, and then the tell us whatever, and then he would answer. So that's how that was the first interview so they can see you, which I was like, well, that's interesting. So, but to me, this is all
to human out of it, huh?
Yeah, but see, here's the problem I have with all that. To me, that's lazy. I don't want the video. Some people don't do good on video. Like, we've had guests that don't do good on video, but in person they're so animated. I'm like, why can't you be this person when we interview you, right? So I'm not much for that. I'm very much, and this goes back on maybe because yes, I'm 1,000,006 years old. I'm very much press the flesh, old school.
Yeah.
I want to see you. I don't want to video you. I mean, Zoom is fine. I mean, I'll talk to you on the phone as well, but I want to hear you. I want to interact with you. I want to see how you really do. But I think that this, this tech, is great. But I think then you lose the human aspect of it. And then to go back to something David and I always joke about AI, pretty soon you won't even need a recruiter. The computer will just do it. And then after a while, the computer's going to realize we don't need humans to do the jobs. We'll just do it. So then,
it's a
what
really
happens?
interesting conversation.
The thing about pressing the flesh, those things, is if you're looking for a remote job, maybe you are physically living remotely, and that's the reason why you don't have the money to jump on a plane or a bus or whatever.
But that's different. When I say press the flesh, I'm not sometimes meaning actually this press in the flesh. What I'm talking about is why am I talking into this little screen to a video camera,
right? Instead
to answer your questions, instead of talking to a person. Like if you see my CV or my resume in America, I guess, but if you see my CV and you like me, why can't you spend 5 minutes on the phone to see if you like me? Because some people may do a horrible job at answer questions from a computer, like, tell us about whatever. Okay, great. Tell us. And you're going to be like, they have no personality, they have no this. But then if you talk to them on the phone, you're going to find out they're really animated. So, like I said, recruiters, in my opinion, are lazy. Yes. And that's the problem. And I think, to Michael's point, I think you almost have to, I don't know, a mini Broadway show. If you're going to send them a video, it's like there has to be an act 1, an act 2, an intermission, and a third act.
It has to be pretty memorable, pretty good.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
Right? Not everybody can do it. Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely. Not everybody can do it.
So, and
the other thing that you should be aware of if you want to work for young tech companies is that nowadays they have a gamification recruitment process.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to play a game against the computer, and it will evaluate then if you're the right person for the job, the right sort of attitude, the right sort of answers. Some of it is visual, and some of it is just scenario. If this man comes in with an axe, what do? Do you kiss him or call the police? That sort of stuff.
Oh, everybody knows you kiss him.
Yeah, I would have done. Any opportunity at my age. But it's but it is strange because there's a couple. I was looking around for some other stuff for somebody, and they said, "Oh, I found this," and I said, "Have you seen what the process is?" They said, "No." So, well, you have to play a game because the way you score on this game will somehow or another computer software somehow will spit it out the other end and saying you're this sort of person, or this sort of person, which is frightening.
Google did well. Why is it frightening? Tell us about that.
Because it's a game.
Because it's frightening in the respect that I might be crap at games but brilliant on the phone, or I might be brilliant on the phone and not have any empathy with what the company is doing. So you have to be very careful what you're choosing for, does it make me a better office worker as well? I've touched on this before. It annoys the crap out of me. If I can play ping pong or foosball or whatever.
Yes, if you can play ping pong and foosball, yes, and right away you are a better employee. Just so off the bat, yes, that's
okay. There you go. That's why I'm crap at what I do.
Google used like a billboard where they put up riddles that you had to solve, mathematical riddles that you had to solve, and Google maybe overhired recently, and that's why they're having the layoffs.
12,000 people, you mean?
Right. But
they can solve any puzzle. 12,000 people. The only puzzle they can solve now is unemployment.
But if you're going to do a puzzle, I get that if I'm an engineer. Right, I get that from an engineer.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Some of the things some of the things that Microsoft and Google and some of these companies do. Right, I'm talking about somebody who's a remote worker, a salesperson, or whatever. That's all about reading the room, pressing the flesh.
Right.
That's a
Right.
whole
And that's
nother
why you have to-
mentality.
well, this is what you're talking about is, again, maybe we'll have to do another show on this, advice for employers of remote workers, because there was a Google study of their own people across not just their technical teams, but their entire company, that said what were the real factors in whether an employee, an individual contributor, was going to be successful. And it actually always came down to who their manager was.
Right.
Quality of the leadership and the quality of the management. So the employee matters, of course, and how you contribute to the organization matters, but so does the leadership. Yeah. And we probably need to do a show on
leadership,
on the advice for leadership.
Yeah, that's a big thing. So I think getting a gig as a remote worker, and I'm gonna say it's easy. It probably really isn't, but it is. I think the biggest thing. Well, I understand that. But I think the biggest thing for all these companies, including the recruiters and everybody, is the leadership. Because if you don't have somebody that you respect and you're like, okay, it makes no difference. You're going to skate whatever you can, you can do. And I don't care who your personality is. It's like, God, my boss is an idiot. And that's a bad thing. It really is. You know, like we talked about, well, if you go to battle with them, are they going to stick up for you? You know, like when I was running companies, if somebody screwed up, I would say to the board, they screwed up, but technically it's still my fault. And people would be like, what? I'd be like, my fault. They work for me.
Yeah.
They screwed up. And then I take it. And then I always tell them, you know, everything rolls downhill.
Yeah.
But that's how you have to be. I'll deal with it. They screwed, we'll fix it. And it's like, it's a different mentality. And today it's all about everybody wants to take the praise. Nobody wants the blame. And I would usually give the praise to the team. Like the team did a great job. They're like, no, it was you. Like, yeah, I just lead them. Like I'm the guy that waves the flag, goes, woo, you guys are doing great. They do all the work. And I find managers don't do that today.
How prevalent do you feel like it is that you get this proportion of people who want to only take the praise and not take the blame and not take responsibility for what they're doing? I mean,
lots, 90%.
I think you see a lot more than that than you ever did. You know, people just want to throw you under the bus.
Yeah,
I agree with Steve. You know, you have to hold your hand over the heads of the guys that are working under you and give them some sort of support, because not all of them, the reason why they're working under you is because they probably don't have the skill sets that you do. So by holding your hand over their head and taking the punches from what's gone wrong within the organization, because that's what you are paid to do, it then gives you the time to go maybe on a one-to-one with all the people who are working under you, because they're all going to be different. They're all going to be slightly, you know, a little bit, as Steve said, a little bit touchy-feely. But yeah, it's much better just to you know, go on a one-to-one with a team under you and say, look, guys, this is what's happened, you know, blah, 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 blah. Because if you look at a good football manager or a sports manager, you know, he's when he gets interviewed, it's a team thing. You know, I made the selection. You know, I didn't do it right today, but we're not hearing what he's saying in the dressing room afterwards.
Right.
But for the outside world, you know, he's looking after his boys or girls.
That's right.
To be politically correct,
you got to look out for your team. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of managers.
That's all.
I don't think managers can do. Yeah, I don't think managers know how to do that nowadays. And I think especially remote, that's like
it's even harder to do.
You got to coddle and build that team. And I think if you don't, that's where the problem is. So I think using LinkedIn to get the gig is great, and doing all your research is great. But then, you know,
leadership,
forgetting what your manager posts on Instagram and Facebook, because I don't really care that your kid learned to walk or learns to go to the bathroom. That's all useless information to me.
Or what you had for lunch.
What you had for lunch or breakfast, right? Like you need to be famous in your own little world, knock yourself out. But my thing is how do you treat me and the team, and how are you going to help elevate me and the team to the next level? A good manager should be prepping his team to take over his job, because his manager should be prepping him to take over his job. And that's how you build a company. And if you're a remote worker, that's the kind of, if I was a remote worker,
you want to participate in.
I would definitely want a manager who says, listen, in 2 years, you're going to have my job. I'm going to make you so you know how to do this job. So whether you're here or somewhere else, you'll have this job. And that's the kind of manager that you need to have.
And
now,
you shouldn't
be
scared to say that, Stephen. You shouldn't be scared to say that. And the company should encourage that. So, we'll all move up.
Yeah.
because if we're successful, there's space for everybody.
That's right.
The more success you have, the bigger the pizza you can buy.
Mhm.
And so everybody gets a piece of it.
That's right.
I agree. But
Yeah. So that's it. It's a big. It shows that the leadership always matters, and we have to be educated on that. And just the reminder is always that remote work, you have to go the extra mile to make that the case.
well,
I
not only
was
has
going to
to,
say something facetious like it's because you live remotely that you have to go the extra mile, but that's not what you meant.
Michael has to go the extra mile just to get to the gerbil that turns
Just to
the
get-
internet on. But it's true. I think I'm hoping that these shows, I mean, because we kind of circle around these certain little areas, even though we say, here's what you should do, but we go back to these, and I'm hoping that redundancy and whoever listens drives it home where they're like, they're right. You really do need to do this. And if you're like on the bottom part of the totem pole as a remote worker, you need to talk to your manager. But like, how can if you want to advance? I mean, if you're a married mommy with 5 or a married daddy with 5 kids and you don't really care and you're just doing it to break up 4 hours a day and you don't care, different story. But if you're someone who's just out of university or that you're a single parent or whatever it might be, and you're, I want to advance. You should be able to talk to your supervisor or manager, like, what does it take for me to get to bum, bum, bum? And if they give you any pushback at all, you need to go find another gig relatively quick, right? Because you're never going to advance. You need, even as a remote worker, even as the last employee hired, you need to have the balls and wherewithal and foresight to ask questions. How do I work my way up? So.
And that the reflection on that is not just if you're going to a company and you're looking to assess them, asking about advancement is one thing too, but you'll notice right away whether their onboarding process tells you a lot about the company too. What's going to happen 30, 60, 90? What are the expectations and what can you contribute in that time?
Right.
That's a consideration that people need to have too, is what does the onboarding process even look like?
Yeah. Well, I hope people have an opportunity to listen to this because we, Stephen is a bit like me. We are a little bit old school, but there's still a lot of people out there who, feel that people are important.
Yes, I didn't say that. Don't get carried away. I didn't say people are important. Let's not like.
Well, you told me once I was important, but there you go. That's another story.
And that gave me €5. Anyway, no, he's right. When people worked for me or with me, they're my team. And I always used to tell them, and Michael and I had this dialogue. We had this dialogue when we were at Noisy Panda.
Mm-hmm. You
live and die by each other.
Yes.
If one of you screws up, you screw up for everybody. If one of you is successful, you're all successful. And if you can get your team to think like that, like if so-and-so's fallen down a little bit, we'll help them pick them up for whatever the problem is. They didn't get sleep that night. They have an issue. As long as that's the whole point of being a team, not boom. If I'm going to be on my own, then even a remote worker is part of a team that has metrics that they have to hit and whatever. And you have to think like I have to help my team member, not I'm going to do really good, screw my team members, because then you're probably not a right fit anywhere.
That's right.
So you really have to be part of a team, and your managers, and from the very top down, have to instill that.
The team is only as strong as the weakest.
That is true.
It's the same as if you were going to war, because business is war. That's another show.
It's
let's get out there and do it. Cover, don't shout each other out in public. Keep sort things out. Be polite. Be civilized.
Oh, you mean things that your parents should have taught you, but the parents don't teach the kids anymore because they use television and the iPad. So that's
we hope that via their iPads they're watching this and thinking, oh, what do they actually mean by that? Let's hope people are going to be watching a remote show and scratching behind their ears a little bit, thinking, there are people who think differently. Yeah.
And we hate to tell you, Johnny, you're not special. You lost your basketball or your football or your baseball game. You're a loser. Practice harder and you won't be a loser. And that's the problem, right? Because they all came in with their little trophy from being 300th.
Well, it's not reality.
Yeah, right. So then you go into the work world and you're like, but they yelled at me because you're an idiot. Like, you're not special. Like, you have to do something special. We'll tell you you're special. And I think that's another thing that when you hire someone, when we hired people, I was very blunt about what I expect. I'm very blunt on how I am. I'm very blunt on if they're going to make it or not. And they would just look at me like, this is the only interview that anyone's ever talked to me like that. I'm like, yep, my interview's like 10 minutes long and we're done.
Yeah.
I don't care about anything about you. Your piece of paper you showed me, I'm assuming it's all full of shit anyway. We'll find out in 2 weeks if you can do the job. Here's what we expect. Can you do it? Yes or no? And they're like, people that said, I can't work here, no problem. You probably wouldn't have made it. The people who are like, I'll do it. They
Right.
stayed forever. Because why? We were very honest up front. They knew the personalities they were going to deal with, and boom. So that's another thing. If you're a remote worker, you got to make sure you understand the personality of your supervisors and all these other people, and vice versa. Like you can't, this kid glove mentality has got to stop. You really have to start like it's brass tacks, within legal rights, right?
People talk about authenticity. I mean,
Yep.
Authenticity is a big leadership concept now, but it goes down to every single person in the organization. And when you talk about authenticity, that's exactly what you were doing, Stephen, is being totally authentic with who you are and what the expectations were. And people don't do that, so that we have to remind the world in a way to do the hard work and be the authentic person that you need to be, because you're not, when you're actually in the day-to-day of a remote job or any job, it comes out anyway. The authenticity, whether you're showing it up front or not, it comes out anyway. So you might as well do it and do it right from the start.
Yeah, you can't be disingenuous. In fact, you and I have been on a conference call when we were trying to help you do something with your other company, right? Mm-hmm. And I was very blunt with their guy, and he even though we couldn't help them because they wanted to go a different direction, at the end Michael said he liked you. Like, I'm the only guy he's ever spoken to, I think, in his 50-year career that ever said, "Listen, that's the most effed up thing I've ever heard. Why would you do this? Do this, go." And he was just like, "Holy, this is like, there's no hold bars." And people are like, "Listen, Johnny, no, we got things, time is money, pal. This is the deal." And I think when you interview for a job, everyone's always polite and whatever. When I used to interview, I was me, and people would be like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, you get this person 24/7. Like, there's not the interview like, "Hi, thank you for letting me talk to you." And then you get there and they're like, "Who's this person?" Right? You get this person. This is it. This is your employee. And I found that also, when I was starting my career, that helped, because they're like, okay, he's got energy. He's got this. And I think that's it. I think people, they read too many books on nothing. That's like every book tells you how to do.
You can't just read. You got to act.
Yeah, you have to actually do. And they read it and they're like, oh, the book says I should do this. And the book, stop it. Stop reading. Just be you. And it's the same when I always love when recruiters would say, "Do you have any questions?" I'm like, "Why? What are you going to answer for me?" And so one's like, I said, "I know every book says I should ask you 50 questions. I said, "But all 50 questions you don't know the answer to, unless they're the recruiter within the company, and then they won't answer them anyway because they're afraid to tell you, like, I can't tell me why Johnny's leaving. You can't tell me about this." So it's very funny, like the books contradict themselves to the real world. And you do have to find a happy medium. But if you're you, and I always tell people, you be you. In an interview, the first thing I'll say is, "Listen, you be you. Throw out all the crap. I don't want to, you be you." And you can see, like, sometimes you'll say it to somebody and they just a sigh of relief. Like, they don't have to put on I want you to be you. I want to know you, because you're the one who we're going to, hire, not this make-believe facade that you're going to show me. And I think that's important even for the remote worker. Show your bosses what you're about. If you're a real go-getter, let them know you're a go-getter. And if the company that doesn't hire you because you're a go-getter, it's okay. You don't want to be there. The company that goes, "I love this person," that's the company you want to be at, that sees your potential all day long.
If circling full circle, if you have the luxury of doing that.
Correct.
So this is the thing. It's maybe a different conversation, but what would you do with people who need a job now? And there are other ways to just find something that's in line. I mean, if you need to find a job now, find something that's at least in line or somewhat related to the job that you want. So at least you can translate, and I think you should be able to do this with anything that you're doing, but translate what you're doing, position what you're doing now with whatever you want to be doing in the future, so that you can at least relate the two.
I agree.
Anyway.
Or if you don't have that luxury, just get a gig, and you can always still
Just
look for a gig.
You can turn it into. I mean, I feel like
Yep.
you can get something and turn it into something. So
That's very true. If you're a go-getter, you can make, even if you're working, and I'm not disrespecting the people
No,
that work at fast food restaurants.
No.
You could be working at McDonald's, and you could start out at whatever they started out, and you could become the district manager. I mean, like, if you're a hustler, you're going to hustle whether it's a remote job, you're going to hustle whether it's this job, or you're going to hustle whether it's that job. And I think that's what people have to understand. If you're a go-getter, doesn't matter where or what you do, you go get.
you go get.
You go get.
On
That's
that
pretty
note,
much.
that's a good
On that
note.
note,
On that
David's
note,
going to play the ending credits now. Everybody
All
have a
right.
wonderful week. Michael will be back next Friday as usual.
with Brittany
With,
Hoda.
with our host, with Brittany.
With Brittany.
With Brittany from Superfans.
Oh yeah.
I don't know this ending, so I don't know. I like the
I love
detail.
discussing the world of remote work and how to be the best remote worker in the digital age, and I want you to be a part of it. If you have a particular topic you'd like to discuss, email me at michael@bendicoot.com. That's BENDICOOT.com. See you next time.
Wow, that's awesome.
Good.
Don't forget to subscribe and like, everybody. Have a wonderful week and a weekend, and we'll see you all next Friday.